Siomra beag.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Sure Look. Sure Listen, the podcast that takes a pop at culture.
Sure look, sure listen. Sure look, sure listen.
Sure look, sure listen.
Sure look, sure listen.
Sure look, sure listen.
Sure look, sure listen.
Sure look, sure listen. Oh, welcome back to On Siomra beag, where this week we're taking a look at loads of stuff. But sure look, Ben, we'll probably start by having a look at the new trailer for Mufasa, the Lion King. Then we'll go on. And what's wrong with you? Why are you doing a big hands in the air? What's wrong with you?
What the fuck
What's
is
upset you?
Mufasa? What the fuck is Mufasa, Michael?
Don't spend your load, Benjamin. That's coming up later. Then we're going to have a look at Kurt Russell has become confused and has remade the film he made only a few months ago in The Exorcist. And
Russell Crowe
Benjamin,
even.
Oh yeah, I said Kurt Russell. I'm even more confused than Russell Crowe. And then, Benjamin, do you remember last week on this very podcast when we recorded unusually on a Sunday and we said, look, if anything comes out on Monday, then we've missed it. And guess what happened, Benjamin? The biggest trailer of the year, Deadpool and Wolverine, came out. And now we're going to cover it a week and a day late. So that's real on-the-money podcasting. But sure, look, that's not all. Because you've seen Deadboy Detective Agency. And both of us have seen the latest episode of X-Men 97. And we're going to do a deep dive into spoilers into who was that fella anyway?
Who even was that fella who looked to be robot-y but maybe naughty? Who's to say? Michael, sure listen. If
What?
that wasn't enough,
Go on.
sure listen. Go into your parents, right?
Oh, yeah,
And
go
sit
on.
down with them at the kitchen table now, right?
Yeah.
And say to them, come here to me. When you were growing up, lads,
Yeah.
what do you think you were most afraid of? What was going to destabilise society?
AIDS.
And if you've got Irish, if you've got Irish parents, Mick, they might say the English, but that would be incorrect.
Probably, yeah.
If you've got international parents, they might say the bomb, and you'd say
Oh.
which bomb, mum and dad, and they'd say the bomb, son or daughter,
Oh. Yeah.
and
Or
which
non-gender specific offspring.
or non-gender specific offspring.
It is the future after all, Ben.
It is the future. But come here to me, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to be taking a look at the bomb. What is the deal with the bomb? Why does it inspire so much fiction?
How exciting. We better get on with it, Ben. So I've only got one thing to say. It's the Lion King. He's back.
So, Michael, this is the Lion King, the actual Lion King, not the Lion Prince or the Lion Hamlet or anything else. This is the Lion King, Michael.
Yeah, look, who asked for this? Where's it coming from? Why does anyone want to see this? I don't.
Michael, what in the Walt Disney's frigid corpse is this?
It's a very big budget fan fiction, isn't it?
Look, Michael, it's a prequel to the Jon Favreau live action Lion King.
Beyonce was in that.
Beyonce's in this. She's credited at the end, and it's introducing Blue Ivy. So I think Blue Ivy is going to play... I can't remember the name of Mufasa's wife in the original Lion King. And that's probably going to get me cancelled because I'm female Lion Lives Matter, Michael.
Yeah.
But I can't for the life of me remember her name. But anyway, she is probably going to be voiced by a young Blue Ivy.
Oh, go on out of that.
And I would imagine whoever's doing... We're probably just getting a retelling of Nala and Simba. But this time, Scar's knocking about being little bollocks.
Oh, Scar, you little bollocks. I don't know if she... So, it seems to be the original cast are returning because the original cast is going to be a framing device for this movie that is a... It appears to be it's going to be characters telling their sons and daughters about who was Mufasa and all in anyways. But, Benjamin, look, as a staunch anti-colonialist and anti-royalist, it's taken a very interesting tact. There's one single line in this that ruffled the feathers of every Irishman alive.
Yeah, go on.
And he was born without a drop of noble blood. So, I think we're led to believe that Simba isn't from a long line of kings of the Pride Lands at all. We're going to see the tale of how they established a hereditary monarchy.
Michael, traditionally
Go on.
and historically,
Go on.
They're not known to be bloodless coups when we establish those new...
No, especially not with lions, Ben. Lions will eat all the other lions' kids.
But Michael, this you raise an interesting point, because this throws the initial might makes right bollocks of the Lion King right out the window, because the original is literally Mufasa sitting Simba on a hill going, everything the light touches is yours, which I'm fairly certain is whatever decrepit monarch is in charge of the British Empire at the time says to their gender non-specific offspring at a certain
Yeah.
point.
No, son, Ben. Son. It was, not gender non-specific. That's one of people's many issues with them.
Yeah, fair enough.
Well, you have to give it to the English monarchy. They've had women for a long time, God bless them.
God bless them indeed. God bless them. But come here to me.
What is
He
it?
does, according to them. He does, according to them. But come here to me, Michael. Who asked for this? Who wants this?
Yeah, it's very strange. It's very, very strange. I can't remember, Ben, the political system that the Lions used in the 2016 remake of The Lion King by Jon Favreau. But I'm fairly certain that we were led to believe that this was a long-standing hereditary monarchy. And I don't know, is someone in Disney going, now we're not into long-standing hereditary monarchies, so we're going to show that he came up from nothing? Mufasa came up from nothing? Because that makes Mufasa a cooler character now. Because if he just has a cool voice because he's James Earl Jones, that's not enough. He now has to come from the prairie equivalent of the streets.
Yes, he's going to be an East London boy.
Yeah.
From the Cockney streets of East London, coming to Africa, taking over.
Oh, God. Bloody hell. Anyway, look, I can't believe this. Your friend and mine, and Sean, he sent me the other day, he sent me Disney's current slate of animated films. And look, Ben, this is not supposed to be a complaining podcast, but holy God, is this one of the most creatively bankrupt slates I've ever seen. Do you want to hear Disney's... This is the current Disney animated slate, Ben. Inside Out 2.
Oh, fuck.
Moana 2.
Oh, dear.
Elio, which I've never heard of. Toy Story 5. Frozen 3. Zootopia 2. And Kingdom Hearts.
That's more twos than an Electric Picnic urinal lineup, Michael. That's awful.
Oh, no. Are you suggesting that people shit in the urinals in Electric Picnic?
I'm not suggesting that, Michael.
Oh, no. Benjamin, I've never been to a musical festival because I am not cool. But now I definitely don't want to go.
I'm sure we'll be sued by Electric Picnic at some point later. Michael, that's an awful slate, isn't it? It's just as you said.
Creatively bankrupt. Disney animation is creatively bankrupt.
It's finished. It's just all safe bets. They are the most risk-averse media empire, I think, currently operating today.
Look, Benjamin, I particularly was a staunch defender of most of the Marvel movies being pretty good, and that everything wasn't just prequels, sequels, remakes, and nostalgia bait. But holy God, Disney have just completely lost the plot now.
But that's all it is now, Michael. It's just, do you remember this? Do you remember this? Have you ever wondered where the da came from?
Yeah.
Have you?
I'm pretty sure Mufasa's dad was all... Look, we're not getting into it again, Benjamin, because we don't have time to keep going around in circles about The Lion King, because we have to get to new, fresh material, like Kurt Russell playing the Exorcism man.
Yes. I can't wait to see Kurt Russell, a man who's never played an exorcist in film, become the exorcist.
Oh, it's not Kurt Russell again. I've done it again. It's Russell Crowe.
So, Michael, it's Russell Crowe, right? Now, Michael, as you aptly pointed out in your wonderful intro, as we so often have at the beginning of this podcast,
every episode,
we've seen this before. We saw this before in I'm Russell Crowe, Italian, and I don't like the demons.
Get out of here, you demons! I am the exorcist of the Pope.
Oh, famously giggly Italians, Michael. Famously giggly Italians there. But what? This is very meta, isn't it? From the looks of the trailer. So
I don't know how meta it is. I have to be honest with you, Ben. I ignored this trailer for the first half of this week because I thought that just an old trailer for The Pope's Exorcist had somehow ended up back in my feed.
Yeah, which would be fair.
Yeah, but it's not. It's an entirely different film. But in The Pope's Exorcist, Benjamin, he played an exorcist who exorcised the Pope, and he was Italian and he was a priest. And in this, he plays an actor who plays a priest who is an This is so meta, but at the same time, I think completely unironically not meta, just a coincidence.
Yeah, look, it's the reason I called it meta, Michael. I didn't even consider that layer of meta possibility.
Go on.
The reason I called it meta is because they do a bunch of references to how things go wrong on the movie sets for Exorcist films. Now, as you and I both know, Michael, that definitely happens and is in no way a marketing stunt filled with rumors that's put out to, stir up a bit of interest in the film.
Benjamin, I'm taking it from that bit of sarcasm there and cynicism that you're not 100% aware that the director of, I can't remember if it's the writer or director, but one of the people behind this is the son of the actor who played the priest in The Exorcist.
Well, now, Michael, you and I both know from my little bit of sarcasm that I was not aware that was the case.
I bet you weren't aware of that. So it's even more meta. So, I mean, this is a movie, basically, about the trope, or as you would say, the trope of the cursed movie production. And one of the most famous cursed movie productions of all time was The Exorcist. Now, Benjamin, my take on cursed movies is when you get 50 to 100 to 200 to 1,000 people working on a project for 6 months to a year, there are going to be accidents and tragedies among that group of people anyway.
Statistically.
Just statistically likely. And the more reckless you are and the more dangerous the production is, the more likely people are going to think that it's cursed. But yeah, either the writer, I wish I'd checked this because I thought I'd remember, but either the writer or the producer or the director, one of the people who are doing it is the very son of the man who famously played the priest who chucked himself out the window in The Exorcist. And he grew up on tales of cursed movie productions.
Adds another interesting biographical meta layer, Michael. I am going for the record of most metas mentioned in an episode.
Yeah.
But that adds an extra interesting layer because from what we can gather from a trailer, Michael, and, a little caveat here, ladies and gentlemen, this is a trailer reaction because sometimes people don't realise what we do on this podcast. This is a trailer reaction, okay?
If you're listening to this in 6 months and the film is already out, don't at Ben Colopy and say, that's not what's happening at all. In fact, did you not even see it? No, he didn't see it. Now, having said that, please don't refrain yourself from attacking Ben. Just make sure you're attacking him on solid ground.
Yeah, by all means, give us some engagement, write some comments, give me a lambasting, give me an old tongue lashing, ladies and gentlemen. Go for it in the comments, you little keyboard warriors. Type away. Just come at me properly. I'll fuck up eventually in the episode. There are perfectly legitimate grounds on which to criticise me.
Several in this episode. They're like Easter eggs. Just listen to the whole episode and take out a notepad. Go back and listen to the podcast. Don't just take this little short that you're listening to and go, oh, well, actually, that's not what happened, because we haven't seen it yet because it's not out.
Right, now that we've covered that, there looks to be, by all
Benjamin,
accounts, a difficult... Yes.
This was filmed in 2019.
What the fuck is it doing coming out now? So was this actually before Russell Crowe was the Pope's Exorcist?
I think it was.
Oh, for fuck's sake, man.
It's not super encouraging when a film is made in 2019 and not released for 5 years.
Not ideal. Were they waiting for the market to pick back up? Like, what's...
Don't know. Don't know what's going on.
Anyway, I was going to say there's another layer of meta there, Michael, because the relationship between the young woman in the trailer and Russell Crowe seems to be some kind of surrogate father-daughter relationship or estranged father-daughter relationship, which might perhaps reflect the young man whose father played the priest that chucked himself out the window in The Exorcist's relationship with his own father during the filming of that seminal possession film.
You see what we're doing, Benjamin? It's layers upon layers upon layers. I actually think this looks quite good, though. all complaining about the meta-ness of it aside, it looks like a pretty good horror movie.
I like Russell Crowe.
What about Kurt Russell?
Kurt Russell's alright as well, yeah. I'd love to watch a Russell Crowe, Kurt Russell estranged father-son movie where one of them is unironically and po-facedly playing some kind of youthful man in that dichotomy. I'd enjoy that. Where no mention is made of the fact that both men are of equal age.
Now that's an interesting take. Are they? Are they the same age? Is Kurt Russell not considerably older than Russell Crowe? Let's look it up, Benjamin.
I hope so.
Russell Crowe is 60. Let's check how old Kurt Russell is. He's 110. Kurt Russell is 73. Kurt Russell is 13 years older than Russell Crowe.
That's
Old
not
enough
as
to be his
conceivable
father
as I wanted.
in some countries.
It's not as conceivable as I wanted to be, but we will call the film When the Wind Rustles.
Oh,
That's
very
what we're
good.
going to call it. And we'll go from there. That'll be
Yeah.
fun. I'll enjoy that. I'll probably make an AI-generated poster of that later for this
Great.
short.
Yeah. Benjamin, do you think when Goldie Hawn is pissed off with Kurt Russell... No, that doesn't work. Russell Crowe. Who's Russell Crowe's wife?
I don't think he has one. He's notably difficult.
So do you think when people are annoyed at Russell Crowe because he's being difficult, they say to him, "Stop being so curt, Russell"? Do you think they say that to him? Ben, do you
I'd
think?
imagine so.
Do you think either A, they say that to them, or B, I've entirely over-egged that joke?
Oh, no, I'd say they probably say that to him, Michael. I'd say that's probably a common phrase that old Russell Kurt Crowe fella hears.
Benjamin,
Yeah.
you know what one of my favourite things about this podcast is?
Go on.
Because we have essentially no audience, there's no one who can stop us from saying, "Fuck off, you fucking fuckhead."
Yep. You say it to me quite often after we record. It's very hurtful.
And in a lot of ways, Benjamin, that's how we show that we're edgy and not for general audiences. Just like the trailer for Wolverine and fucking Deadpool.
Yes, Michael, welcome to a week late and a day short of the mark in the wrong direction. Welcome to the podcast that takes a look at all the news out of date. Next week, we'll be reviewing the brand new film, The Exorcist, about a priest who takes on a demon that's no good.
Yeah, and from the 70s.
From the 70s, where this podcast is from. Yeah, look, we got a trailer for this, Michael. I don't know if we got more information about this film. All we got was a cracking good look at Hugh Jackman in a big yellow suit and a bit of action.
No, there's loads in this, Ben. There's loads in this. We've got a feast of stuff here. First of all, we see obviously that the raison d'etre of the reason for existence of this trailer is to show us that there's going to be swearing and blood and violence.
So much,
like uncharacteristically much for Wolverine.
Yes, uncomfortably so, probably for Hugh Jackman, who is, by all accounts, a good man.
He's a song and dance man, Ben.
Yeah, he's an old razzmatazz man.
He's so upset at having to say all those bad words. But so we saw that, obviously, and we saw the joke about Kevin Feige not letting them talk about cocaine. Hilarious stuff.
Yep.
So we know it's going to be R-rated. We also saw a little bit of plotism, where we know that this Wolverine is a variant Wolverine who seems to have done a big Charles Xavier and killed the X-Men or something.
Yeah, he's done fucked it.
He's done fucked it, as they would say in this very film. So he's kind of a sad Wolverine. It's a classic sad Wolverine.
Michael, we already got sad Wolverine. It was called Logan.
Yeah, we got Logan, but in that it was Charles Xavier who killed the X-Men. In this, maybe Wolverine. Or is this a Wolverine who didn't even manage to stop that?
I don't know. He says he fucked it. They say in the trailer, it sounds to be that this guy failed to save the world, so now Deadpool's going to be like, help me save mine. And that'll be the crux of it. I don't know.
That seems to be, Benjamin. We also saw, for the first time in a trailer, very excitingly, Cassandra Nova, the villain of the piece, maybe?
Maybe, or possibly just a 2-minute cameo in one scene.
Who bloody knows, Ben? Cassandra Nova, Ben, famously, Charles Xavier's evil fetus twin.
Who was once eaten in utero.
Yeah. No, he didn't eat her. He Charles Xavier and Cassandra Nova are responsible for one of the greatest comic sequences of all times.
Go on.
And that is a one-page spread of two identical twin fetuses having a punch-up in the womb. It's one of the greatest sequences of comic art. It's not just a boxing match. It ends with fetal Charles Xavier strangling fetal Cassandra Nova with the umbilical cord.
Oh yeah, no, he goes for it. Like he's all in.
Absolute psycho fetus Charles Xavier. So hopefully that makes it into this film, Ben.
I mean, that's what I'd like. I'd enjoy that, Michael.
That's what we'd all like.
And judging, I'm just looking at that image now, Michael. Sweet merciful Christ.
Have you never seen it
Jesus
before?
wept.
It's fabulous,
I've
isn't it?
never seen that. I'm going to share it with you there on the screen.
Yeah, no, I've seen it. This is burned into my mind, Ben. This is one of my favorite comic panels of all history. Is this? Look at that absolute right that he lands there. Incredible stuff.
He's laying out Cassandra Nova. He's just like, duh. To quote the kids, Michael, Charles Xavier has that dog in him. Sweet merciful Christ, Michael.
Yeah. Oh yeah, he's throwing hands, Ben. There's no holding back.
Throwing hands and I can't say that. Umbilical cords, apparently.
Yeah. Not a moment's hesitation. And Benjamin, it looks like the cavalcade of cameos that this movie's going to be have already started. Because, for example... Go on.
No, you go on.
No, you go on. You were going to say something. I'd love to hear what you were going to say.
I was just going to say, we're going to get loads of Bryan Singer-verse fucking cameos by the looks of it.
We're going to get Bryan Singer-verse. We got a big giant Ant-Man head.
Yeah, we did, yeah. Yeah.
So Ant-Man's dead in this universe, so that's positive, I suppose.
I mean, that's a win in my book. Not for Paul Rudd, but for me, yeah.
Yeah, for you. You hate the character of Scott Lang. So, I don't know, I thought this was pretty good. I thought this was an exciting trailer.
Michael, I have to say, best use of Like a Virgin by Madonna that I've ever heard.
Was it not Like a Prayer?
Sorry. Best use of Like a Prayer. I'm down on my knees, I want to take you there. By Madonna that I've ever heard.
Yeah. And you particularly love, Benjamin, when they take a pop hit and make it all dramatic for trailers.
But do you know what I liked about this one, Michael, specifically because I hate that particular trope?
Yes, go on.
Is that they kept the upbeat 80s kind of zest of it involved, which I quite liked. I was like, oh, good. I enjoyed watching Hugh Jackman and Ryan Reynolds have a little scrap. That was fun.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's probably going to be a big part of the movie.
Henry Cavill is probably involved in this, apparently.
Oh, Ben, look, I have a list here as long as my arm of people we've been told are going to be in it. I'm kind of suggesting that we don't get into it on this podcast because we don't know how many of them are going to be true. I suspect most of them are going to be true, but I also don't want to build this up too much for myself, let alone the listeners. So it can only lead to disappointment if we list everyone who's going to be appearing.
That's all right. Look, fine. Fine.
Yeah.
Fine.
Ben, we also got a trailer, and I'm going against your order here because this is just a slightly relevant thing to say. Did you watch the final trailer for X-Men 97, Ben?
I didn't. No. Go on, tell me more.
Don't worry that you didn't, because 90% of it is old footage and it's not super exciting. But
yeah, all right.
I called my lovely lady friend, excuse me very much, my lovely wife, Benjamin. I called her in to watch. I sat her down and I said, come here, sit down there. I'm going to explain this to you before you enjoy this. Benjamin, do you remember in the X-Men film, 2001's X-Men? And
yes.
Bryan Singer had the character of Wolverine put on his leatherwear and be kind of uncomfortable. And then the Wolverine said, do you really wear this going out? And Cyclops said, what would you prefer? Yellow spandex? And everyone in the cinema slapped themselves on the knee and said, that's right, Cyclops. Yellow spandex is ridiculous. You can't make a film with yellow spandex. It's time for everyone to be in cool, serious, modern, realistic costumes. And we all went, woo! Woohoo! Do you remember that?
Yes, Scott fucking Scummers, ladies and gentlemen.
Scott fucking Scummers. Anyway, Ben, the new trailer has the best clap back I've ever seen from an animated trailer 25 years later, where Cable appears to be joining the team for a mission. Cyclops gives him his classic X-Men costume, his kind of Cyclops-looking costume, and Cable says, am I dressing for war or am I going to the circus? And what does bloody Cyclops say to him, Ben? What does he say? He says, what? Would you prefer black leather? And everyone who shamefully whooped and hollered in 2001 went, that's right, Cyclops, that's right, you were right the whole time. We were wrong. You should have been in the yellow spandex the whole time.
Should have been there. Should have been in it. If the bloody Deadpool and Wolverine trailer has taught us nothing, Michael, has taught us anything, even if you want to get the phrase correct.
Yeah. You can get whatever you want right or wrong. Doesn't matter.
Is that a comic accurate Wolverine costume looks pretty fucking good.
Yeah. With 2024 technology, Benjamin, we had to go through that era. We had to go through the realistic costume era to get to where we are now.
It's true. We did.
Benjamin.
We did. Yeah.
Speaking of realistic depictions, you have seen the Deadboy Detective Agency.
Michael, I wasn't going to watch this, right?
Go on.
The Deadboy Detective Agency came out this week on Netflix, right?
Oh, yeah. This is a Sandman spin-off, would you believe?
This is a Sandman spin-off set in the Sandman universe established by the Sandman series run by Netflix.
Oh, very good.
Which was very good, actually. The Sandman show was a great little show. Now,
Nine Wassies on the Discord, Benjamin, said, yeah, we all thought that at the time, but none of us have gone back and watched it ever or even thought about it again.
Well, that's fun, Michael, because I have gone back and watched it specifically for this review.
Oh, very good. Go on then.
Now, Michael, I woke up one morning this week on the Discord. Ladies and gentlemen, the Discord, linked below in the description. If you would like to spur me into action and rewatching old series, hop up on the Discord, linked below.
Hop up on it.
Yeah, give it a go. Or, ladies and gentlemen, if you've been enjoying this podcast for some bizarre reason best known to yourself, give us a review wherever you listen.
Benjamin, you've been editing the podcast for the last 3 weeks. Are you remembering to pop the Discord link up in the description?
Yes, I am, you cheeky little sausage.
Good man. Good man. Look, why would you ever doubt Ben, everybody?
A pattern of consistent failure to be consistent.
Yeah.
Probably the major reason that you would doubt Ben. But anyway, come here to me. Oh, look at that light, Michael. That's lovely light on the side of my face there. If only this was a visual medium.
Yeah. Pay attention, Ben.
Very nice. Sorry, I got distracted by my own face. Oh, if I had a nickel. But anyway, come here to me, Michael.
Yes.
I woke up to that slander on the Discord, and I saw that two of our members on the Discord gave the Deadboy Detectives a little bit of a lambasting, Michael. And I have to say, at the time of reading, I wasn't shocked that they weren't glowing in their reports on the show, because, quite frankly, Michael, you and I watched the trailer for this and went,
Looks like softwood.
And I think Lockwood, even if you
No, yeah, I know what that show was called. I was saying this looks like the soft equivalent of it. Softwood.
Yeah, so look,
what?
I think the most frustrating thing about this show, and I'll say this right off the bat, is there are the bones of a fantastic show in this.
Yeah, it was called Lockwood.
Yeah, it was called Lockwood and Co. There are the bones of a great show in the Deadboy Detectives on Netflix, but they just can't keep their angle or their tone straight, and they can't follow through on what they're delivering. There is some fabulous moments of horror in this. There's some great moments of ghost hunting. There's some supernatural levels of fun gods and supernatural beings knocking about a small American town. The bones of a great show are here. And even in terms of calling back to the Sandman,
go on.
Death features in the show. She pops up. Despair pops up in the show. So two of the Endless pop up. And they're very consistent. And when they're on screen, it's very unnerving. It's very all-powerful. It's very good. It's very well done tonally. There are some sequences in this set in hell. There are demons. There are hauntings. There are some really jarring moments. And then other times, Michael, it's like the CW-fication of Sandman.
Oh, very good.
Yeah. So tonally, Michael, it's all over the shop. And I think what's so annoying is it occasionally hits its streak just right, and you find yourself engaged with the show, and you're like, this is pretty fucking good. I like this. You know, it's a spooky, unnerving thing, and the stakes are there. It's kind of fun in that regard. And then other times you're just like, oh, Jesus Christ, this is the most unearned fucking moment I think I've ever seen put to film.
Oh, no.
Yeah, so it's a frustrating watch in that regard. So I having looked at some of the criticism on the Discord, very justified from our two Discord members that gave us a little review. Number one, there is very little chemistry between the two leads.
Oh no, that's not good for a podcast.
It's luckily, Michael, we've actually never had that problem.
I thought that was a criticism of the podcast. Sorry, I stopped listening.
Oh, very good, Michael. Very good. But it features around the two characters of the Deadboy Detectives. Now, the Deadboy Detectives, Michael, have featured in Sandman since the beginning. They made their debut appearance in Season of the Mists arc of Sandman, and the two boys are Edwin Payne and Charles Rowland. And they are two, as you might have guessed, dead boys.
Yes.
That were ghosts with unfinished business. One of them, Edwin Payne, died in 1916. I'll probably insert Come Out You Black and Tans there.
Yeah,
for the listeners
as you have to
enjoy.
Yeah.
And Charles Rowland died in the 80s.
The 1980s.
So, the 1980s. So essentially, Michael, you have kind of a modern-ish ghost and an out-of-time ghost.
Ben. The people who this is targeted at call the 80s the late 1900s.
Yeah. Well, look, I mean, there is a bit of that, I suppose. There is a bit of that.
Yeah.
So, Michael, these are two characters created by Neil Gaiman. And look, I wouldn't say there's any hardcore Deadboy Detective fans out there. I can't imagine that they are anyone's favourite aspect of the Sandman universe.
No, everyone loves Sandman. Or Death.
Yeah. Everyone loves
that
Sandman.
Crow. Matthew the Raven.
Matthew the Raven, or Death, or
Lucifer.
Even Merv the Pumpkin.
Yeah. Lucifer. A lot of people like Lucifer.
Loads of people like Lucifer. But this is clearly, Michael, an attempt to tap into that CW demographic that Netflix has desperately been chasing for a very long time. We got this before. And as some people pointed out in our Discord, Lockwood & Co. is a show that exists. Young, sexy people doing supernatural shenanigans and horror is a tried and tested formula that has worked on the CW for years. It started with Supernatural. It's kept going since then. You know, and it's fine. And it existed already. So why they've gone back to it is a little bit beyond me. And again, as I said, the most frustrating thing about this is it's actually very well acted in places. It's genuinely unnerving and very spooky in other places, which is great. But it does that awful thing where it just cannot hold its own tension. It keeps letting the air out of the balloon for a soft moment, or a moment of connection between the characters, or, you know, a little flirt or something like that. And you're just there going, no, this is supposed to be terrifying and unnerving. Now,
I can't do a balloon noise, sorry.
The cast itself, great work from the lot of them. It's a mix of a British and American cast. A guy called George Rextrew is playing Edwin Payne. He's arguably the weakest of the cast, but he's still quite good.
1916 one, Ben?
He's the 1916 one. Now, he's the weakest of the cast because he's supposed to play kind of a fish out of water, or a man out of time.
Oh, yeah.
It just doesn't come off. He's very twee. And then he is a gay character, so we find out that he was targeted and bullied because he was a queer man in the early 1900s. And his death, as it were, and we'll go into some spoilers here, Michael. His death is horrific. He is a ritual sacrifice by a bunch of Etonian schoolboys, essentially.
Oh, no good.
And it's very grim. And then he's sent to hell for nearly 70 years due to a clerical error. So because he is a sacrifice to a demon, but he hasn't done anything wrong, he is dragged to hell regardless. And it's quite upsetting. And it turns out that Edwin has a very harrowing backstory because he spent an awful lot of time in hell.
Oh, no.
Which you're not supposed to do.
Like Dean Winchester.
And then the other major character, the Charles Roland of it, is a guy called Jaden Reverie. And he does a great job of being kind of the plucky muscle to the group. And then filling out the cast is a bunch of quirky characters. So a woman called Cassius Nelson is playing Crystal Palace. She is called that because she forgets her actual name, Michael. And we meet her when she's possessed by a demon. But it turns out she's a medium. And she acts as the lad's kind of intermediary with the living and the dead, the other dead. So it's filled out quite well, and it's quite enjoyable. And they end up getting stuck in a small port town in America, and it turns out that there's loads of supernatural shenanigans going on. Supernatural shenanigans going on in that town. But as I said, one of the most frustrating watch experiences ever, because there is the core of that spooky, gothic Sandman tone that we all love, but they keep fucking it up in favor of, oh, will they? Won't they? Oh, a little flirtation. Oh. And you're just like, oh, fuck off, lads. Will you just
get on with it?
Get on with it.
Benjamin.
Yeah,
Supernatural sounds like the porn parody of Supernatural. Ben. Look, anyway, I'm not going to watch that. Doesn't sound great. Because I don't have time to be watching that, Ben, because we've got loads of X-Men to watch.
Oh, Michael, you and I have watched some X-Men.
Benjamin, I'm loving X-Men 97. I think it's absolutely fabulous.
Michael, there was more slander in our Discord this week. I nearly fell off my chair.
Nine Wassies had the very cheek, Benjamin, to say this is boring nostalgia bait.
Dare you, Nine
How
Wassies.
very dare
Please
you.
don't stop listening, though. We need all the listeners we can get.
Yeah.
So,
But this is not the place or the time. Now is the golden age of X-Men fandom for the 90s, who are now in their 40s. The best time.
This is the best time to dust off your old action figure collection and post them proudly behind you on every episode of the podcast you record. Now is the time.
Yeah, great stuff, Benjamin. Anyway, another kind of setup episode, more setup and revelations than action, although there was one very good action sequence. Oh, there were two good action sequences, excuse me.
No, there was some. I think it was some pretty solid work all around, Michael. I enjoyed the manga-inspired rogue rampage that we got.
Very good, Benjamin. And as a long-term 90s Marvel fan, loads and loads of throwbacks to Rogue's character from the Capcom games in the 90s. Practically every move she did in that sequence was from her Marvel vs. Capcom move list from the 1997 or 1998 game.
Get out of town. I had no idea that was the case. They
Yeah.
really strike that tone so well, don't they? It's just all X-Men nostalgia, just crystallized into a single funnel.
Crystallize the absolute best era of X-Men and just get everything. As an X-Men fan from that period, Ben, there's just so much in this. And I get where Nine Wassies is coming from with the boring nostalgia porn, but my lovely wife really enjoys it, and she'd never even heard of the X-Men.
Michael, I got a text from long-term pal of the podcast, Connor, today.
Oh, yeah. How's he getting on?
He's getting on grand. I think he's doing all right. And Connor said to me, here,
Still a big
how
tall
much
fella, is
X-Men's...
he, Ben?
He's a big tall fella, big tall muscular fella. A bit like a lumberjack let loose.
Oh, yeah, good man.
Yeah. But
What
he
did he
sent me a
say?
text there, Michael, and he said, come here to me. Do I need to know much X-Men background stuff to get into this show? And I said to him, nah, that's the best thing about it, is you don't really have to be an X-Men superfan to get into X-Men 97. And he sent back to me, he said, yeah, I elected to just go for it bareback. So far it's working.
Oh,
So
good
there
lad.
you go.
Good lad.
There's a tasty little review on how accessible this is, ladies and gentlemen. But I think one of the things that was interestingly pointed out to me, Michael, by the TikTok, because I'm all over the TikTok these days, ladies and gentlemen,
he's covered in it.
Tonally speaking, this show should not be able to get away with some of the lines and delivery that it gets away with, because it's far too cheesy. But for some reason, it keeps getting a pass. There are several moments in this show where I pause and go, if anything else tried to pull off that line. And the line I'm thinking of in particular is the one where Rogue squares up, and spoilers for the episode here, squares up to Captain America.
Yeah.
And Captain America turns around and goes, my hands are tied, Rogue. And she goes, well, if your hands are tied, sugar, you won't be needing this. And she just flings his shield.
She flings his shield miles away. And I was just thinking, oh, you bitch.
Oh, you fucking bitch.
And if Captain America wasn't an absolute Boy Scout, I would love a take on that scene where Captain America is played by Dennis from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. And she just throws the shield away and he goes, Rogue, you bitch.
Rogue, you dumb bitch.
So petty.
So petty. And one of the things I really enjoyed about it was, because he's so right in it. He's like, yeah, I can't go down to Mexico and charge around in my United States themed uniform, causing havoc, because that would trigger an international incident.
Yeah, so this is leading up to the, like, why are the other superheroes not doing anything for mutants, which is a long-running theme in lots of Marvel content, lots of X-Men, Avengers crossover stuff.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's always interesting. In any Avengers-themed comic, they are the absolute heroes. In any X-Men comic, the Avengers are just a bunch of cops that lick the boots of whoever's holding the flag.
Mm-hmm. Fabulous.
They're the worst.
And there were a couple of very interesting little Easter eggs in this episode, including several references to... In the devastation, in the aftermath of a almost mutant extinction level event, someone saying, what we need is hope. And it really, really feels like they're putting the pieces on the table to do a Messiah complex Hope Summers story.
They really are clipping through the modern X-Men comics. Like,
yes and no, funnily enough. Yes and no. Like, the Genosha was wiped out in 2001, I think, in the comics. Yeah. And the Hope Summers storyline is from a few years later, I think, but not many.
I want to say 2011.
Oh, is it that many later? But then at the other time...
Don't quote me on that. Don't quote me on that.
On the other hand, and again, spoilers for the show, the OZT storyline, the Operation Zero Tolerance, is, funnily enough, and I think this is fabulous, pretty much the storyline that was happening in the comics in 96, 97.
Yes, it was. That's exactly what was happening.
Yeah, so I kind of like where they're going with the villain reveal of this week's episode. And the kind of organization behind it. And I've spoiled it already, so Operation Zero Tolerance, obviously. And then Bastion. Bastion was introduced to X-Men comics in 1996. I've done a little cosplay, Ben, for your delectation. I've done a little, what we would call a closet cosplay of Bastion.
I've done a little closet cosplay of Wolverine today, Michael. Look.
Oh, you have. You've done a little closet cosplay of Wolverine. You're like if Wolverine was a maths teacher.
Both cutting and complimentary, as always. But, Michael, that brings us to a very interesting point. By the way, Messiah Complex was 2007, 2008. Okay. So not 2011 at all.
Yeah. Anyway, Bastion. One of the weirdest characters in X-Men.
What a fucking interesting choice, Michael. So... Bastion was introduced, as you pointed out, Michael, in the Operation Zero Tolerance storyline, which is essentially Israel in 1996. Israel today in 1996. So, Operation Zero Tolerance is the government's kind of big push to just get rid of mutants.
Yeah. Get more Sentinels. Get better Sentinels. Get rid of mutants.
Yeah. And Bastion, as we come to understand him, is not the Bastion that we get in 1996. Then his name is Sebastian Gilberti. Or Gilberti. I'm not sure how it's done. And at this time, Michael, I think for a very long time, I suppose, Sentinels lost their teeth. They became the punching bag of the week, I think, a lot of the time. And somewhere around that 95, 96 era, they started trying to think of how can we make the Sentinels big, bad, and scary. And Marvel Comics chose two directions to go in.
Go on.
And that was Master Mold and Nimrod. Both interesting choices. So Master Mold is essentially Big Mac Daddy Sentinel.
Yeah, it's the big Sentinel factory. We've seen plenty of Master Molds in the X-Men 97 series.
We have so far. Absolutely, indeed. And then, Michael, what we got was Nimrod, who is from X-Men Days of Future Past, and he's kind of the next generation Sentinel.
Well, he's the last generation Sentinel. He's the best
he's
Sentinel.
the end product.
He's the end product of the Sentinel program. Nimrod is essentially the Sentinel equivalent of Doomsday. He's adaptive. He's kind of like he's got bits of the super adaptoid or Amazo or Doomsday, in that once he's seen a power, that's it, you're done. You can't keep doing that to him. He was kind of adapted a little bit in the Days of Future Past movie, where those super Sentinels from the future in that movie, you know, when Iceman is ice blasting them and then they learn his ice blast powers and use it on someone else. Or it's not, they never explain it in the movie. They do it kind of subtly, but Colossus is fighting one and one of them holds on to him and it imitates his steel skin and gets a harder skin. So Nimrod's a little bit like that, but with a personality.
Yeah, so that was the most important bit because, again, Sentinels had become the big dumb punching bags that didn't really have any venom to them because they were just machines. And so Marvel was like, how do we bring that back? Let's make it super intelligent and snarky. Let's do that.
Yeah. So, look, the form, how Nimrod is created in the comics is really not worth getting into because Bastion. Because it involves magic. Not the character magic, literal magic. And basically what happens is they fall into a magic portal, the Siege Perilous, which is from
Perilous,
which is from the
90s
Excalibur
MacGuffin
Caliburs. Yeah. And a Master Mold and a Nimrod get merged together into a kind of human-looking Sentinel. Forget that they're a Sentinel. Think that they're just a normal man. But Bastion in the 96s was just a normal man. This is retcon shit. So this Bastion, I think they're not going to go down that complicated a route. I think he's just a super Sentinel. I think he's just Nimrod.
I think this Bastion, voiced by none other than Theo James, Michael.
Your best mate, Theo James, Benjamin. He took a break from thinking about the film Underworld, which he was in, and he went and recorded this. And you know what's great about it? Unrecognizable.
Recognizable, Michael. He plays a bizarre kind of American 1950s swaggery bad guy.
Yeah, great stuff.
Great stuff from Theo James. But yeah, so in the thing, it's kind of bizarre. Originally, he set up, Michael, as a government agent, essentially, who's pushing Operation Zero Tolerance. And the X-Men infiltrate one of these committee meetings about Operation Zero Tolerance. And I think it's Jean Grey, and she tries to read his mind. She's like, oh, I can't read his mind.
Maybe he's Sentinels.
Yeah, maybe Sentinels. And then later on it comes out that he's all the Sentinels.
He's literally Sentinels, yeah.
In this, Michael, I think we're just going to get a mutant-hating Superbot, I think is what we're going to get.
I just think he's Nimrod. I think they're just going to reveal that he's Nimrod. I think they're just going to go, yeah, it's Nimrod. He learned how to adapt to look like humans. And he's back for revenge. I think there's a reason they keep showing us Nimrod in the intro sequences. And I'm not convinced that they're going to do magic merging of Master Mold and Master Mold. Is that right? That feels wrong.
Master Mold.
Is it?
Master Mold.
Is it really? Is that what it is? I've said it too many times now. It sounds wrong. Anyway, I don't know if they're going to go down that route, but yeah, odd choice. And the odd choice of his theme music is the Purple People Eater.
So he has a bizarre there's a few things in this that I loved and hated at the same time. So one of the things I absolutely loved is the introduction of a next level Sentinel threat. And it doesn't come in the form of Bastion / Nimrod at all. It comes in the form of a fucking demented version of Trask, which is a fabulous sequence. And it invokes one of those things that you explained to me, in that whenever you want to show that a character is very powerful, you have him take on the Hulk and win. But in the X-Men, if you want to show a character can kick some ass, you have them take on Rogue and mop the floor with her.
Literally one-shot Rogue. And in the middle of a speech as well. That was the best thing about it.
It's a kicker. And Rogue thinks she's, had her big act of vengeance, and then she's just activated next level Sentinel shit.
Yeah. Gets a big
But
punch
I
in the
thought
head.
that was a fabulous sequence.
Very
where the
anime.
X-Men... Yeah, very anime from start to finish. Fabulous sequence. And then the bit I really didn't like, Michael, is that reveal, and major spoilers here, at the end. But sure, Magneto's grand.
He's grand. I told you he was grand, Ben.
Yeah, give us at least an episode to mourn. Give us a bit of space. Jesus.
That Jesus, he's back. Anyway, Ben, look,
Yeah.
we're heading into the 3-episode finale, Tolerance is Extinction, which sounds like it's going to be very exciting.
That sounds intense.
Doesn't it? Sounds very intense. It sounds like the urinals at the flippin' Electric Picnic Festival, Benjamin.
Yeah, absolutely. Tolerance of a bad hygiene and etiquette is extinction.
No, Benjamin, I was just suggesting that they're intense, Ben. Because it's a music festival. They're intense. Anyway, Ben,
I see what
I've
you
finished
did.
watching...
You've never been to a music festival, Michael.
No, I've never been. I don't know what it's like because I'm not cool. Benjamin, while you've been watching the Deadboy Detectives and I've been being at home being not cool, I finished watching Fallout, and I tell you what, I loved every second of it. It was great.
It's a fabulous show, Michael. I'm 4 episodes in.
Very good show. I said this, I don't know who I said this to, but I stick by it. It's like if Twisted Metal was good. Remember Twisted Metal? Remember everything about Twisted Metal that was nearly kind of okay? Imagine the budget to commit to that and do it properly.
Oh, man. Such things as dreams are made of. And if anyone has the budget to commit to things properly, it's Amazon. So
Amazon has the budget to commit to anything, including exploitation of low-paid workers. But Benjamin, that's neither
Yes.
here nor there. Because, funnily enough, while I was watching that, I've also been reading recently because I can and do read.
Yep,
But
you're
I've
quite
also
good at
been
it.
reading. Yeah. I've been reading Isaac Asimov's Foundation. Now,
Oh, yeah.
I believe you watched the recent Hollywood adaptation of that particular show.
Apple TV, Michael.
Apple TV giving us the good stuff, Benjamin. And now, aside from the fact that Apple TV made the interminable mistake of changing a lot of the male characters to women for that series, I've heard good things about it.
It's very good.
But what struck me during the last week of my personal pop culture viewing was how influential in everything that I've been enjoying recently, either the promise or the fear of the atomic bomb has been over the last 100 years of popular culture.
Michael, it is the cataclysm to end all cataclysms for the last 100 years.
So, Benjamin, funnily enough, I've been reading Foundation, and I don't know if you remember Foundation, Benjamin, but it came out in the 40s.
Ages ago.
The original book was published in the mid-40s. The early 40s, 41, 42, 43. And funnily enough, in that book, which is set 15 to 20,000 years in some sort of future, the bomb hadn't been dropped when Isaac Asimov started that series.
No, it was
And
just a vague threat.
It was just a vague threat, Ben, but it was more than just a vague threat. It was also a promise. And the entire plot of the book, now bear in mind I haven't seen the TV show, but the entire plot of the book series is that this vast galaxy-spanning human empire is entirely powered by the omnipresent and almost omnite power of atomics. And
Yeah.
the level of development of any planetary system or government, and the be-all and end-all in interplanetary trade and negotiation is one simple word: atomics.
Yep.
And that very much shows where people thought the atomic age might go. If you hearken back to earlier, the first kind of uses of atomics, it was all rocket ships and rocket blasters and intergalactic travel and limitless power sources. The very power of the atom, Ben.
Yeah, retrofuturism was obsessed with that concept that the future would be bright as opposed to bleak. You know, that especially around the 1940s and 50s, there was that great hope, I suppose, coming out of any cataclysm, Michael, like World War II, for example, or World War I. The world can only commit to so much misery at a time before there is some kind of hope for a better future. And retrofuturism, or the atomic-fueled space age, as you were describing, was the idea that all we need to do is crack this one technological advance that's going to open up the gateway, baby. It's all
Exactly. Atomics are the future of human civilization, basically. I mean, so that's kind of like the 40s and 50s. And obviously, Ben, there's an exception to that kind of hope for the future of atomics. Remember, in the early 40s and 50s, in the early 40s to early 50s, from a Western perspective, the bombs that were dropped on Japan in 1945, 45, were not common everyday imagery. People weren't seeing those things. So, obviously, Japanese pop culture was very, very, very differently affected by the threat of atomics rather than the promise of atomics.
Absolutely.
And no bigger example of that than our very good mate, your best mate and mine, Godzilla.
I mean, factually not our mate at all, Michael. In fact, the destruction of most of the civilized world, should he get the chance. Godzilla.
Oh, sorry, I was thinking of Theo James, our mate Theo James.
Yes.
Yeah. So, I mean, Godzilla -1 is a fantastic example of that Japanese attitude. I always think that the interesting thing about Godzilla from the perspective of atomics is that Godzilla's not a representation of the fear of atomic bombs directly, because atomic bombs, I would argue, are more terrifying than Godzilla.
Yes.
You know, you're not.
You can
you don't get to
see Godzilla coming.
Exactly. Yeah. You don't just. There's not just a bright flash and sudden obliteration.
Yeah, the Flash skeleton.
Exactly. Yeah, it's not. It's not just that horror, but so. Where was I going? Oh yeah, Fallout. So Fallout, even though it's from much, much later, Fallout seizes that, and this is particularly in the games more so than the show. The show doesn't particularly get into it, but the games really get into the idea that the bombs were dropped in the 40s, but then humanity entered that golden atomic age.
Go on.
So, like, all of the technology in Fallout, all of the anachronistic looking stuff, like, how do they have supercomputers voiced by your mate and mine, Matt Berry? How do they have robots running around the place? How do they have suits of powered armor? Because the Fallout series isn't set in the 50s. It keeps the 50s aesthetic, but it goes off into the future with this power, the promise of atomic energy is realized in the Fallout universe. And then the rug is pulled out from under them by the threat of atomic destruction.
Yeah.
Which is it's the juxtaposition of the Fallout universe that makes it so interesting. And I think something that was slightly missing from the show, because the show really focuses on the threat of nuclear bombs, but not the promise of atomic power.
I mean, it's one of the things that I mean, it slightly touches on that in that, and slight spoilers here for the Fallout series, ladies and gentlemen. As we go through, we get insights into Walton Goggins' character. He plays one of the ghouls of the Fallout universe, and in this TV show, the ghoul, that's what they call him. But he is a famous actor from back in the good old days of the Fallout universe, and he is slowly being reeled into propaganda and conspiracy by Vault-Tec, the company that makes the vault.
For sure.
And yeah, their love of the promise of the atomic age is very much seen as a capitalist conspiracy at the time.
Yeah, but exactly, that's kind of what I mean. The show in particular is about the threat of nuclear war and the dangers of unfettered capitalism. It's not about the threat of nuclear war balanced against the promise of an atomic golden age. So it's kind of missing that link to my mind. And, funnily enough, that's the same thing about Foundation. But another thing, Ben, that I've been enjoying recently and that we've all enjoyed recently, and that comes from a little bit later in pop culture, the series June. It's fascinating to me, Ben, in the series June, that the family power, the entire power structure of the universe of June obviously revolves around who controls the spice melange. Because, Benjamin, as you know and I know, he who controls the spice controls the universe. But what does control of the spice come down to in the film June? Or the book series June? It comes down to family atomics.
Yes, it does.
He who controls the most nuclear bombs is the most powerful family. And you can leverage that to control the spice that controls the universe. So even 20 to 30 years after the bombs had dropped, the bomb was still the be-all and end-all threat against humanity.
What's fascinating there is it's that the concept of world peace thanks to atomics is based on the notion of mutually assured destruction, and the Dune universe takes that a step further because everyone is wearing a kind of portable nuclear generator in their shield packs that they carry around with them, and that's why nobody uses fucking guns, because if you misfire.
No, if you shoot a shield with a gun, it's not about misfiring. It's just if a laser gun shoots a shield in the Dune universe, you get an atomic blast.
You get an atomic blast and it's going to wipe everyone out. So everyone in the Dune universe is like, all right, I'll use the funky vibro knife, but only because I don't want to be vaporized.
Just fucking stab you very slowly. You bastard.
Yeah.
Fucking great stuff.
Mad stuff altogether. But
Ben,
go on.
Go on, you're going to say something.
No, I'm done.
Oh, you're done? That was it. Look, we're running out of time. So, right, 40s, 50s, 60s, you see this gradual kind of turning from the hope of the nuclear age, then to the kind of looming threat of nuclear destruction. But then, by the 80s and 90s, the imagery of World War II is everywhere. And people have truly seen the level of destruction of nuclear war. And it becomes not a vague, nebulous threat. It's not about mushroom clouds anymore. This is when you start to get horrifying sequences like Terminator 2's nuclear apocalypse sequence. Do you remember, Benjamin, one of the most affecting nuclear apocalypse sequences of all time?
Poor Linda Hamilton in that chain link fence, Michael.
Oh my God, Benjamin. Linda Hamilton, she's just having a lovely day. She's having a smoke in her vest. There's kids playing in the playground. And then moments later, nobody has any skin anymore.
They're just skeletons.
Everyone's just skeletons. Now, I imagine the transition to vest to skeleton was quite sore.
So many fused fibers and textiles, Michael. Ugh.
At least it would be pretty quick. They all essentially get flash broiled.
one of the things that always taps into that for me, Michael, and it's quite, it's tonally in line with the likes of Terminator, but Watchmen, the comic specifically, was always a fascinating look at that razor's edge between the promise of nuclear advancement and the horror of getting it wrong. That notion of nuclear holocaust, or nuclear winter, or whatever way you want to look at the fallout of it is. But one of the things that embodied that incredibly well, not only from a visual, physical, visceral perspective, but also from a philosophical perspective, was Dr. Manhattan. And I always thought he was just the older I get, the more he kind of surmises that dual threat and promise at the same time. Because on the one hand, he could solve everything with the snap of his fingers. He is the potential of atomic energy incarnate. And he does in certain cases. He puts car manufacturers out of business because he can create enough material for batteries from here to Kingdom Come with the snap of his fingers. And so the great technological advancement of the nuclear age is kind of pushed forward almost overnight. And then the problem of him is that humans get greedy and they're like, oh, we can't trust him because he has too much power. And they begin to look for ways to disarm him. And that's the central plot of Watchmen, is Adrian Veidt. I can never get his Veidt, I think. He decides, right, I'm going to deal with this because this guy walking around is a problem. And of course, the great flaw of this is it turns out that Adrian Veidt isn't trying to help humanity at all. He just doesn't like that there's a bigger cock of the walk about the place than him.
He's just a prick.
He's such a prick. And I think that's something that often gets lost in the movie adaptation, where we go, oh, Adrian Veidt was trying to make everything better. He's not. He's just annoyed. He is the logical retelling of the Superman Lex Luthor myth, in that he's just jealous of the fact that Dr. Manhattan can do whatever he wants.
One of the kind of, I think we're in an interesting time now in science fiction, Ben, because I think we're entering a post-nuclear, a post-atomic age. Well, obviously we are. And I mean, I think people will look back in 100 years on this period and look at AI and robots and artificial intelligence, like from Terminator and Skynet to the Creator and to the film AI. Like, this will be remembered as the AI age, and it will be seen as a quaint, we were dealing with our issues with AI on the potentials and hazards of it. It's a cycle. This is a cycle. It's going to keep happening over and over again. But because we're in a kind of post-atomic age, the thing that happens now is most hard sci-fi now presents atomics or nuclear bombs as kind of trivial and sad, and humanity's reliance on them as an indication of how backwards we are and how little we truly knew and understood.
Yeah, look, I mean, I think at this point, Michael, we're all fucking exhausted. That hope for a brighter future just hasn't manifested. And we've, at the moment, it doesn't look like we're getting an atomic age. We're uniquely positioned in this being Irish and not having a nuclear power in this country, mostly down to fear and policy making decisions, which is a fascinating study in its own, but maybe a little bit too political for the last 3 or 4 minutes that we have left. But in science fiction, in hard science fiction, and even in some science fantasy, deploying nuclear weapons in space, which, Ben, look, I'm no scientist, but basically deploying nuclear weapons in space wouldn't do very much, because not a lot.
The real damage of a nuclear weapon is the shockwave, and you can't have a shockwave in space because there's nothing to pressurize, so you'd only get intense heat. Exactly. But yeah, it's often like the 3-Body Problem, the book series, for example, has a great sequence where humanity is considering firing our super powerful nuclear bombs at the aliens, and the aliens are just like, yeah, whatever, Go ahead, mate.
Go for it, pal. It's grand.
Won't do any use.
Yeah,
You're
did.
so backwards.
Yeah. One of the channels I enjoy the most, Michael, when I have to kind of engage with one of the deeper theories underlying something that we're covering on the podcast, is the Kurzagast one, the In a Nutshell series. And one of my favorite revelations on that was, if you were to get into intergalactic warfare, the concept of flinging a small projectile across a huge distance would be more effective than bringing your entire armada to a planet.
Yeah, oh yeah.
And
yeah. You
just...
you accelerate something tiny to near light speed. Whew, that puts atomic power to shame.
Yeah, and I always found that fascinating, that eventually intergalactic warfare will just be little fellas with those paperclip fucking rubber band.
Yeah, well, I'm not going to spoil any particular science fiction series for you, Ben, but that is the plot of a very popular science fiction series that we'll probably be hearing more about in the next couple of years.
Fabulous, Michael. Ladies and gentlemen, are you afraid of atomic power? Let us know in a couple of different places. You can find us on the interwebs at www.seomrabeag.com, SEOMRABEAG.com.
Look, Ben, I'm not going to lie. I checked that the other day. We haven't updated that in nearly 2 years.
No, it's ridiculous. We've got another website, ladies and gentlemen. We've got www.shirlookshirlistenpodcast.acast.com.
Which is great because that's automatically updated, so it doesn't matter when we forget about it.
We don't have to worry. You can also find us on Instagram at shirlookshirlistenpodcast.
You can give Ben a follow along there for Ben, and then he'll finally release the reel that he's been keeping in the back pocket for years now, The Worst Ben.
Yes,
everyone is on tenterhooks.
Oh, this is
waiting for
Mick's
that reel.
favourite. This is this is Mick's lost Stanley Kubrick tape. This.
I think that's the funniest bit we've ever done on this podcast, and I think it's an absolute crying shame that it hasn't become a reel.
It might be. I'll turn it into a reel. Just for you, Michael, it'll be a reel
Thanks,
this
Ben.
week. But ladies and gentlemen, you'll have to follow us also maybe on TikTok at Your Look, Your Listen Podcast to hear if it comes out, or you'll never know.
Yeah, you'll never know.
Ladies and gentlemen, you can join us in a week's time. We're going to be taking a look at supernatural detective agencies. Where did that come from? Why is it such a popular bloody genre?
Oh, are we really?
Yeah, from Scooby-Doo to the bloody Jensen Ackles of the world. Why are we all about bloody supernatural mystery detective boys? What's going on?
Oh, cool. Can I watch the Ghostbusters?
Yep, that's fine. If you want to watch the Ghostbusters, off you go.
Now, not the Ghostbusters, the Dan Aykroyd one. The one with the chimp and the car.
Yeah. Oh, that's an absolute classic, Michael.
Yeah. The Funimation one.
Oh, the Funimation one. Yeah, we'll watch that. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that's it from us this week. Bye-bye.
Oh, see ya. Watch out for those nuclear bombs.
Siomra beag. Siomra beag. Siomra beag.